results from the polling stations and do their tabulation. Is there a plan to have a similar infrastructure for your side across the polling stations, if you know?
We are prepared to guard our vote, and we will do it effectively.
Getting your vote. Okay, all right. I want us to transition and talk about the latest in the world of politics, because so much is going on. Again, like I told you, 57 days to the general election, about 55 or thereabout to the end of the official campaign, because it must conclude by the 6th of August. How would you say the campaign is so far, as we get into almost the third week?
Yes, so far I think the candidates are conducting themselves in a very respectable manner. The campaigns are peaceful across the country. Yeah. We have not had any run-in or hooliganism. And I think if you look at the main players in the presidential campaigns, they have been conducting themselves in a very, very noble. In fact, this particular election, the candidates are really conducted themselves well, and we commend them for that, and they should keep on the spirit, because at the end of the day, we have a country to keep, we have Kenya to take care of. We also look at the other aspirants for Senate, MP, like my colleagues here. So far, even them, they have conducted themselves well. And I think that should be the spirit. I mean, it's not a do and die. I've been to many countries observing elections, Australia, UK. If you go to UK on an election day, you'll never believe that there is even an election going on, because nobody's bothered. Every other business is running. You rarely know. And because of the systems those people are put. And in the UK, at the close of the polling day, the returning officer takes the ballots, puts in a car boot, and takes to the tallying center alone. There are no policemen in the polling stations anywhere. In Australia, they actually even have bands playing at the polling stations, and people come with children and dogs to vote. So that is amazing. It's only in this third world where we are that you find a lot. It's like we're in a security installation. But we must accept that is our situation in our country. But then if we continue the way with the trajectory we are seeing now, then we seem to be heading to peaceful election. And that's what we are all praying for.
Are we that bad on the campaign trail?
No, we're not that bad. You know, the quest for a free and fair election appears achievable. And as we've always insisted, the problem is not in the structures. The problem is not in the systems put in place. The problem has always been with the individuals. Yeah, so that if the culture of good governance permeates the entire spectrum, both on the part of the candidates running for office and on the part of those oversighting the election, we should have a free and fair election. I mean, it's a mathematical exercise. And look, for some of us who went to school, and know that 1 + 1 will be 2, and that KCP plus KCE equals a degree, then you shouldn't have a problem participating in this exercise without looking behind and on the sides. So that you have the guarantee. And often it will manifest. If you have the potential of being elected, it is something that people will see. And I mean, the three of us on this table have served in elective offices before. You're able to evaluate from your own how viable your candidature is. And I think as we speak right now, from bottom up, we're able to see that UDA will take this thing. So we've got no problem.
Okay, I want us to listen to some of the sentiments. I know Sifuna wants to respond. Sentiments that have been going on, including that UDA Women Charter meeting on Friday. Listen.
I commit on behalf of Kenya Kwanza Alliance that we shall allocate 50% of all cabinet positions to the women of Kenya. I, William Samoei Ruto, on behalf of Kenya Kwanza Alliance, do hereby commit to actualize the 2/3 gender principle. Women-owned enterprises will automatically qualify for the LPO financing through the Hustler Fund without any other conditions.
Kwa sababu mzee atatoka kwa boma akiuza shamba, anaenda kukaa town na town babies. Anapanda ile mali ya ule mama wa kwanza ama wa pili, ambayo mama ameng'ang'ana kujitafutia pamoja na watoto wake. Unakuta sasa mama anakuwa maskini pamoja na watoto wake.
I, William Ruto, on behalf of Kenya Kwanza Alliance, commit to ensure full enforcement of the spousal consent provisions of the law in all land transactions and property rights to cushion women, children, and families from dispossession of family land. On the subject also, I commit on behalf of Kenya Kwanza to put an end to period poverty by providing sanitary pads and sanitary towels to all our girls.
Okay, all right. That was Deputy President William Ruto having a conversation with the women on Friday. And we will shortly be listening to Honorable Martha Karua as she was campaigning in Murang'a. But there are a lot of promises and commitments that we've been hearing. Of course, from Azimio la Umoja, we heard of the manifesto and created quite a furore after the question about second-hand clothes. How would you rate these, and what are the mistakes you can't afford to make at this point in time?
Well, first, let me go to the question of the campaigns briefly. I also agree that we have had a fairly peaceful campaign so far, and it is because we continue to insist and to tell our supporters in the public that, in fact, this is supposed to be a competition of ideas. The brothers and sisters in UDA looking for seats like Harvey here, he's not my enemy. We just have an opposing view of where the country should go.
Remind me, I'm your people master.
No, you were never my people master. You see, this is what I was coming to. The problem with UDA is that they do not actually advance facts and factual information. I was never your pupil, Harvey. I was your boss. I used to sign your checks. But this is what is going to happen.
Be grateful if
I was not. You know, whether he was my pupil or not is a question of fact. I was a pupil at Cairo and Makot Advocates.
And what was it?
This one was my employee when I used to work at Magnet Ventures. I used to sign his checks. I was his boss. So that's besides the issue. I don't know where he gets this idea that I was his pupil. Now, the question of campaigns have been largely peaceful. Of course, we have seen some abhorrent incidents like the destruction of campaign material or billboards in Bomet. But we want to encourage people that this is supposed to be a contest of ideas. There are other formations, political formations, that have tried to pull this into the side of the ugly, organizing crowds to boo people. You saw the experience that Martha had initially when she started to campaign, and she had to shut that down to the extent that now she can be able to take a stroll in Eldoret, as she did yesterday, without incident. The question of how elections are conducted in other places, Commissioner, allow me to hazard a guess that, in fact, our stakes are a bit higher. If you understand where the Kenyan people are, their lives are very difficult. People are suffering, my brother. They know that elections are consequential, that, in fact, if you don't get the right people in office, these problems are going to persist. That is perhaps why people who already have healthcare sorted in the UK, people who already have education sorted, are a bit more laid back when it comes to elections, because I believe that our stakes are higher here in this country. Now, on the question of the messaging, what we saw with the Women Charter is an obvious reaction to the fact that Azimio One Kenya Alliance actually put a woman on the ticket. And it is also a fact that out of the 4 teams that were cleared to run for the presidency, it is only the deputy president that has refused to acknowledge that women have a space in terms of the top leadership of the country. All the other 3 have running mates as women. If you look at...
Has he refused? I mean, isn't it his right to
It is a fact. Yes, it is a right to choose. But it puts you in a very... You have questions to answer. If out of the 4 of us, here as candidates, we all have women running mates except you, then you have to answer questions as what value you attach to women and women in leadership. Then the question of the charter itself, for instance, when he talks about the question of spousal consent in land transaction, Harvey here is my senior in law. He knows that that is already law. That in fact you cannot have land transacted without the consent of your spouse, male or female. Number 2, on the question of the 2/3 gender principle, I would be very interested in seeing the UDA list of candidates. Harvey, why wouldn't you run a woman candidate in Westlands? You are telling us that
Westlands Kenya Kwanza us two, myself and Sylvia Mlam.
Just a minute. Just a minute, Harvey. How is the deputy president? You know, all these things that people pronounce themselves on, Sam, we should always double down and ask them the how. So if you are talking about realization of the gender principle, how are you going to do it given the number of tickets that you've handed to your aspirants in the various constituency seats? So we would like to know the details about what is it he's talking about. For us, we know that we have given an opportunity to this country that for the first time, the women are going to come as close as possible to the greatest seat in the land in terms of power, and that in fact it is a heartbeat away from power, and that now there is imagination that in fact all of our daughters and our sisters can also find inclusion at the very highest table in the land when it comes to elections. What I want to encourage us in terms of this election, we were told by UDA that gender is not an agenda. I think it was my friend Rigathi, who we consider a very serious gift horse ourselves. What
does that mean?
He is a gift that keeps giving. He continues to enlighten us about what it is that the UDA plan is essentially about. It is about rice and meat. It is about telling us that gender is not an agenda.
Really, they were said in jest, SG Sifuna.
You say that, but this is who he is. This is who he is. So when has he ever had a serious conversation? What are the things that he has told you that were not in jest? So that we can be able to measure the capacity of this individual who's going to be a heartbeat from the presidency if, God forbid, they win. But the point that I was making is, when they told us that gender was not an agenda, what is it that they're coming to tell us now about having half of the cabinet given to women, yet they couldn't share the ticket with the other gender? That is the question they need to answer.
SG, you know, when Deputy President was naming his running mate, I think it was on 15th of May 2022, he also said that he was going to make sure that at least 10 members of the cabinet would be women. So it was not.
Are you aware that he was the first presidential candidate to promise women the deputy president position?
Well, I'm saying
he also said that.
Him promising 50% of the cabinet, it was not a reaction.
It is a reaction. I can assure you it is a reaction. Because they can see that with the choice of Martha has really galvanized the woman vote in this country.
Okay, SG, so I want us to listen to a clip, but it's not true. I mean, he named his running mate on 15th, and he said about 10 women being in the cabinet.
10 is not half.
Just hold on. Raila Odinga
10 is not half of the cabinet.
Martha Karua the following day. So it's not a reaction.
But 10 is not half.
10 out of? Let's listen to a clip of Martha Karua
24.
while on tour. No, it's 22. On tour of Murang'a County. Listen. This is SG.
Kila familia itapata 6,000 kwa mwezi. Hiyo pesa inapeanwa wakati wewe huna namna na huna kazi. Tukiunua uchumi, upate kazi au uanzishe biashara, utatolewa kwa hiyo mpango iende kwa mwingine ako na mahitaji. Vijana wetu watapata ajira sababu serikali ya Azimio inasema kila county itajenga industry moja. One county, one product. Kenya iko na madeni lakini Kenya iko na pesa. Pesa inaporwa, inaibiwa, inatumika vibaya. Hakuna mambo mengi tutafanya. Raila Amolo Odinga, kinara wangu, amesema atapambana na ufisadi. Na mimi namuamini. Mahali tumefikisha, msingi umewekwa na zile serikali zimekuwa hapo mbele. Sisi tumeapa tutachukua na tutafanya kazi zingine nyingi zaidi tukishirikiana na nyinyi kama Wakenya.
Nelson, I'll give you an opportunity to write a reply of what SG Sifuna has been saying. But for you, do you think the choice of running mate has in any way impacted this campaign? If yes, what is that?
Well, the truth is in all political contests like the one we're having now, the choice of running mate is really key. It helps either boost the presidential candidate or something to that effect. In this kind of scenario, I'm not an expert in analyzing exactly what's going on. because our two contestants are here on the opposite sides. But it has brought in a healthy debate. And I think it has been a serious advantage to the women of Kenya, and which is healthy also, addressing the question of two-thirds, because the choice of Martha Karua, senior counsel, has also awakened up the other side now to come up with a charter, which I think must have been a reaction.
It's a reaction.
That must have been a reaction to the other one. Oh. Whereas there was a naming of the half of the cabinet before. But I think it has galvanized the UDA part Kenya Kwanza to come up with a charter. So my take is that whichever way it has gone, it has been a win-win for the women of Kenya. The choice of a woman deputy president and the signing of the charter, which is an undertaking. A charter is an agreement that once I form a government, I will deliver the following to the women of Kenya. So to me, as a professional and as an independent person looking politics from an impartial side, I think it's a win-win for the women of Kenya, and it's a healthy debate. I'm happy also our friend Wajakoya is also having a woman running mate, which brings that balance. So to the women of Kenya, this politics today seems to be in your favor. So it's a welcome situation. Whether it boosts is another thing altogether. SG, the boosting of one woman as the deputy and the boosting of a whole charter, all those are welcome things. So look at it from that point. A whole charter carrying so many women and one woman as deputy.
Okay.
I think you need to come with another charter, please.
No.
All right. SG, you're accusing me that I'm not accepting. I was very specific on the issue of composition of the cabinet. I have not questioned the charter or anything.
Proceed.
But Nelson Harvey, what's your response to that? And again, the same question about the impact of the choice of running mate to the campaign and how possible it is to sell these candidates or candidatures to different regions of the country.
Sam, permit me to use this analogy I always use for people with impaired sight, especially those in the Azimio Kuzimia enterprise. You see, you can write...
Can you just call it by its right name?
It's okay.
Yeah.
On this show, please?
Yes, the Azimio enterprise.
No, it's not an enterprise.
The name is Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition.
I mean, it's a mouthful. I don't want to be tongue-tied. Now, if you write this sentence, opportunity is now here. If you have a vision impairment, it may be read as opportunity is nowhere. Now, in UDA, we said we will take into interest what is germane to Mama Mboga. Now, these people have misinterpreted Mama Mboga to mean Mama Moja. You understand? We are empowering all the women of Kenya. And as a starting point, we have said we will comply with the High Court decision, which is in tandem with the Constitution, that there must be gender equity and parity in all appointive offices. Remember, there's a decision of the High Court declaring the cabinet as unconstitutional. What Dr. William Samoei Ruto has said, he will give at least 10 slots to the women. You understand? Now, the other day, he committed affirmatively to ensure that the two-third gender principle, as anchored in the Constitution and as decided by the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court, is effectuated. How will he do that? He will persuade Parliament to ensure that we enact two-third gender compliance laws. Now, compare this. You're being given an opportunity for 50% of the women of Kenya, vis-a-vis one woman. Where do the scales balance? And let me speak to the women of Kenya. And I want to speak a little bit more strongly. This is the point. Often, there are those amongst yourselves who will want to get the comfort of the fact that they are feminine for purposes of getting votes. Yet, in actual fact, their mindset is male. This is the reality. Compare these women with those men who are prepared to empower the women, not by one woman, through 50% of the women. And see, this is not a knee-jerk reaction. And we've always said, what we're giving out are not just empty promises. We're giving out to the women of Kenya what is due to them under the Constitution. It's as simple as that.
So you say...
Can I just say this on the gender question? That,
okay.
In fact, generally on all these promises, a promise is as good as the person who's making the promise. In 2013, William Ruto told us about these sanitary towels. He cannot be selling that same agenda to the women of this country 10 years later. Number two, he has had opportunity to demonstrate this, Harvey. He has had occasion where he was told, okay, appoint half of cabinet. In 2013, in 2017, did the names of the people that William Ruto present as his side of government meet the gender threshold? He did not give the cabinet slots to women. So we are saying that the history of a person matters. What you say you're going to do should be anchored in what you have done in the past when you have had similar opportunity to do the same. Why are we still talking about sanitary towels from 2013? He has been the deputy president 9 years now.
Sam,
go ahead.
Menstruation is a monthly biological occurrence. It has never ceased to occur. So if we promised this 10 years ago, we'll promise it today, we'll give it today, we'll give it tomorrow, we'll give it for as long as mankind continues existing on Earth. I don't know, maybe Sifuna is a little bit impaired in female biology, so he doesn't understand. He thinks this is a one-time exercise. It's there to be...
It is the solution, Harvey. It is the solution. So when you say that you're going to provide a solution to a problem, you solve the problem and you move on to other problems. By now, women of this country should not be bothered about the question of...
What have you done about this question?
They're going to be...
What have you as
you wait
done about this?
In the next 2 months, I'm going to be...
Ngoja umiza matumbo.
We are going to be in government. We will show you. Because we have a history of promises made and promises delivered. The question of provision of...
Remember, I've always been part of you.
This is what I'm saying.
Until I realize you never keep your promises.
No. Number two, Harvey, you yourself have been asked the question about what you think about Martha's candidature. You have been coy about it, but on social media you have actually loaded the ticket. You have said, this is somebody who brings credibility to the ticket, is somebody whose history is known, this is somebody who's a credible candidate for deputy president. Why can't you say it on live TV?
Okay, Nelson, there's something you said. I mean, I think there's a certain program under the Ministry of Public Service and Gender that has been going on in as far as provision of sanitary towels for school-going children.
Absolutely.
We'll verify how much success that has been vis-a-vis the promise. But you say that he is going to persuade Parliament to pass gender-compliant laws. Do you have a specific suggestion of how that can be done after, I think, 3 or 4 attempts that failed?
Look, Sam, as you remember very well, I'm the one who petitioned Chief Justice David Kanani Maraga to dissolve Parliament. My 2 predecessors at the LSK office had failed to do that. And he indeed advised President Uhuru Kenyatta to dissolve Parliament. So that even as Sifuna and I get into Parliament, there is an anchoring obligation on our shoulders to ensure that this is actualized. And if it is not actualized, we'll suffer perpetual dissolution. And to that extent, what Dr. William Samoei Ruto has indicated will be done is in tandem with the Constitution. Look, he has no option but to do that which the Constitution requires of him. And the fact that there have been 2 attempts before which have failed is not a hindrance to it being done. There is the goodwill to have it done. And the starting point is the undertaking to secure an executive that is 2/3 gender compliant, to persuade Parliament to enact these laws. And then for me to put a close to this debate, look, Martha Karua, Senior Counsel, is a lawyer of great distinction. You know, she acted for Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga for the various nefarious cases that were profiled against him during the era of President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi. And you see, the problem with my friends in ODM, they always excite themselves from optics and perceptions. You understand? The person on the ballot.
Do those optics matter?
Can I progress? You will see how it matters.
Okay.
The person on the ballot for president is Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga. We should never be deluded by any smoke screen behind him. And even if you were to go behind him, we must always remember the buck stops here with Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga. The contest is between Raila Amolo Odinga and Dr. William Samoei Ruto.
You don't think...
We have seen what they offer on account of social economic development. One promises to give every household 6,000 per month. Another promises to uplift the entire base at the bottom of the social economic strata. Which of these two individuals?
The question is how.
You don't think the running mate empowers or weakens the candidate in any way? It's just optics?
No, it doesn't. Listen.
Okay.
And I need to be very categorical about this. When we sit on a table like this discussing matters of great national importance, the consideration should always be neck up, not waist down. And there are many considerations that inform my discussion. And listen to me, sir.
I am.
Sifuna may not want to listen to me.
I'm listening.
These people are competent in their own capacities without gender.
Right.
You understand? The issue of gender has clearly been demarcated under the Constitution. You understand? And because they want to forget very easily, they were so excited the other day when Chief Justice Martha Koome was appointed first female Chief Justice. And they made celebrations day after day. Listen, there is no femininity in leadership, provided you've set out the parameters.
When
This is
ultimately
terrible.
you find the first female Chief Justice?
Yeah, it is terrible, Sam, given the history of this country and the subjugation of women all through the traditional barriers towards women advancing themselves. He comes from a community, he knows that traditional notions about women in leadership and even in business and even in education have traditionally put women down. So that when we see people breaking these barriers, it is something to celebrate.
Sam, let me just give a
These are the
reminder
guys
and
who
we
are saying
progress.
that,
You understand?
I'll give you an opportunity. I just wanted to point out...
Sam, let me just close
I'll
on
give you an
that.
opportunity. Yeah. According to the Public Service and Gender Ministry, a total beneficiaries of the program are 3.7 million girls. They are collectively receiving 14.8 million packets of sanitary towels, costing 420 million shillings. As the State Department for Gender is responsible for logistics, monitoring, and evaluation for the entire project. I just needed to point out what is existent. And of course, we'll be weighing that against what the promise is. And I need us to wind up. I had wanted us to go into something else, but time is not on our side. You wanted to say something before I give...
Well, whereas they are talking about this point of gender, the two of them on different perspectives, the thing is our Constitution 2010 has really come out as a very progressive constitution in terms of empowering our women. And that's a good thing. And now looking at the 2022 presidential election, there is a determined aspect by all the presidential candidates to empower our women. And that is something we can see, whether by appointing a deputy president, whether by signing a charter on women, whether by promising that half the cabinet will be women. That is something positive and good going forward. So to me, as a leader in this country, we are looking at a situation where in the formation of the next government, we will see a role being played more by our women in leadership.
Okay.
And that is something very, very positive. So I agree mostly with Avi on much of the things, but it's not right to say that a woman leader at the apex ceases to be a woman. I think the thing is, once we have those women represented at the apex, some of us who have been championing on minority rights, for example, and they may not agree. We have been saying that ethnic minority communities in Kenya, like where I come from, the Ilchamus, for example, need representation at the highest level of government. But this thing has been muffled. Over time, I have had the chance to address the key presidential candidates. I had a chance to present a paper to Honorable Raila, and I also had a chance to address Deputy President Samoei Ruto. And I've always said that even as we consider other parameters, women, and gender, let us also look at ethnic minorities and the need for their representation. And I championed and said, even if the chance to represent minorities is a chance to give a woman an opportunity from those same minority communities, so be it. So I think let us all agree in this table that there is, for the first time, the women agenda is in the presidential campaigns and is something positive, and we look forward to more women participating in our electoral processes.
Okay. I owe you half a minute, but let's take a look at the feedback that has been coming to us via Twitter. Citizen TV Kenya, Sam Gituku, we're waiting for that on what Kenyans have to say. This is Saul Twiga. You're saying some leaders lose their followers' votes because of distance. Why can this IBC introduce online voting process? We need elaboration on this kindly. Bobo Tieno, kudos IBC for shelving manual list for the forthcoming general election. It will restore confidence from Kenyans. Okay. Engineer Lazaro, in order to avoid embarrassment of candidates being rejected for not meeting the certain academic requirements, parties should thoroughly vet their candidates before presenting them to IBC. IBC should also be open to public scrutiny. A fair point. Chalo Wadrozi, the level of education in our country, Kenya, should not be compromised. Let the law be followed. Leaders should not forge degree certificates in order to be clear, to vie. It's a mockery to our education system. IBC should be very strict on such matters. And Frank Orinde, the political class are showing us how corrupt they are. The issue of academic papers should be taken seriously. We need to have credible leaders on the ballot, at least as a bare minimum. Javi, your 30 minutes.
Oh, 30 minutes. Thank you so much.
Sorry, 30 seconds.
Now, as I've said, and I must repeat this for emphasis, women empowerment is not about giving one woman the chance to be deputy president. It's about giving 50% of the women of Kenya their right under the Constitution to elective and appointive offices. Then in closure, because I'm a man of great precision, if ODM and Azimio takes pride in the fact that they have Martha Karua as deputy president designate, what is the anxiety about our side? I think they should be happy that we have not done what they have done, if at all they think that is a selling card. The women of Kenya realize the opportunities that are available to you under the Kenya Kwanza government. It is not mama moja, ni mama wote, mama mboga. That's it.
Well, actually, I've already stated that we were quite happy with pick Gachagua. We have insisted that he should speak more. We would like to know more about his plan of giving us.
But you don't want me to speak more.
But this is the point I want to make in closure, that in fact, when you look at the history of all these leaders, they will tell you where they stand on the women agenda. There was a time when Alfred Mutua was still our friend. He took me to a tour of his county, where he was commissioning the 670th borehole, for instance. If you sort out the problem of water, for instance, you are addressing a large percentage of the problems of women. Article 43 rights. These are things that William Ruto opposed when we were proposing them under the BBI. So he cannot come then and claim that he's the person best placed to implement the women agenda.
All right.
By closing, just to say that I would wish that the IBC continues with the test runs on technology to ensure that they get it right. I think they should do another 3 or so test runs to just allay fears on technology. And we urge the telecom companies to give a lot of support to the IBC because this is critical. If we get right on transmission, the country is calm and everything will go well.
Okay, all right. Nelson Havi, he said that I should not say he is from a Law Society of Kenya, so I will not say. As he just did. SG Sifuna as well, and Commissioner Thomas Letangule for making time for us. Thank you all. And we do this again tomorrow at 6 a.m. Of course, we continue with the coverage of the road to the elections and issues of concern that are coming up. My name is Sam Kituku. See you some other time. Bye for now.